Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Chicago, early one morning. The sun struggles to penetrate the tall glass and concrete buildings, barely illuminating the still silent streets. In a chic but discreet neighborhood, a small cafeteria is already attracting its first customers. The Golden Cup, with its large, clean windows and gold sign, looks modest, but inside, the scent of freshly ground coffee and homemade pastries fills the air, promising warmth and comfort. Behind the counter stands Monica Johnson, a black woman in her 30s, with bright eyes and a reassuring smile. She wears a clean apron and a white shirt, and her attitude is that of a dedicated professional. Every gesture she makes is precise, every movement thoughtful. Regular customers know her as an attentive waitress, but no one suspects that Monica is no ordinary employee. She is, in fact, the founder and owner of Golden Empire, a successful coffee shop chain across the city, but she likes to stay incognito to observe the real lives of her employees and understand the daily challenges of her customers. That morning, the ringing of the bell at the entrance announced the arrival of an unusual customer. Richard Caldwell, a billionaire known for his arrogance and inflated ego, enters the cafeteria. Tailored suit, impeccable shoes, haughty gaze, he doesn't seek coffee for the taste, but for the impression he can make wherever he goes. Two of his assistants follow him, ready to fulfill his every whim. Richard walks up to the counter with a smirk, thinking it's just a simple coffee to be served. Little does he know that at the end of that counter, behind the smiling face and modest apron, stands a woman capable of dispelling his arrogance with a single word. That morning, their worlds will collide, and the lesson Richard receives will be far more bitter than the coffee he's about to order. In this small cafeteria, in the middle of the busy city, power and dignity are about to reveal themselves in an unexpected form. The bell at the entrance rang again, announcing the arrival of Richard Caldwell and his assistants. As soon as he walked through the door, the air seemed to fill with tension. The customers, accustomed to the calm of the Golden Cup, turned to observe this imposing man. Impeccable black suit, shiny gold watch on his wrist, shoes that click on the tiles. His gaze sweeps the room as if he already possesses everything in it. Monica, as usual, remains calm. She walks up to the counter with her usual smile, ready to greet this seemingly demanding customer. "Good morning, sir," she said in a soft but confident voice. "What can I get you this morning?" Richard looks her up and down, his smirk betraying his contempt. "You can start by making me the rarest, most expensive coffee you have," he said authoritatively. "And quickly. I don't have time to waste on mistakes." Monica nods slightly, showing no irritation. She makes a mental note of the order and turns to prepare it. Richard is already growing impatient, tapping his foot on the tiles and giving orders to his assistants. "You see," he whispers to his aides, "some people should stay in their place. This girl. I doubt she really knows what she's doing." One of the assistants nods shyly, while Monica, ignoring the whispers, continues to prepare the coffee with precision. Every movement is measured, every gesture calculated to deliver perfection. The aroma of freshly ground coffee fills the air, and the atmosphere begins to relax slightly, despite Richard's intimidating presence. "It's almost ready," Monica announced, placing the coffee in front of him, carefully presented. "I used the blend you requested, roasted this very morning." Richard takes the coffee and tastes it exaggeratedly, frowning slightly. "Not bad, for a waitress," he said with a sarcastic smile. "But tell me, have you ever worked for someone like me?" Monica looks at him calmly, her smile not wavering. "Sir, I handle matters more important than you can imagine," she replied softly. Richard bursts out laughing, thinking it's a joke, and the other customers exchange puzzled looks. The stage is set, Richard Caldwell, arrogant and self-assured, and Monica Johnson, calm, in control of her dignity and hiding an identity Richard has never suspected. The beginnings of an unforgettable confrontation are launched. Richard Caldwell sits down at one of the cafe's small tables, his back straight and his gaze authoritative. His assistants remain in the background, noting their boss's every move with palpable nervousness. The other customers, intrigued, watch the scene in silence. Monica walks towards him, notebook in hand, ready to take a new order. "Mr. Caldwell, do you need anything else?" she asks gently. Richard interrupts abruptly, his voice filled with contempt. "Yes, actually, could you be a little faster? And make sure it's perfect. I don't tolerate any mistakes." Monica nods politely and returns to the counter. Richard leans toward his assistants and whispers loud enough for them to hear. "Honestly, how can we let these kinds of people serve the public? We should teach them to respect their superiors." A murmur of approval ripples through the assistants. Some customers look away, uncomfortable, but others begin to feel a dull anger at the man's attitude. Monica returns a few minutes later with a new order, perfectly prepared. "Here's your cappuccino, Mr. Caldwell," she announced calmly. "The foam is made according to your instructions." Richard takes the cup and lifts it as if to examine a fragile object. He pretends to be disappointed. "Humph. See, you should really learn how to do this properly. Honestly, it's almost laughable." The customers begin to murmur among themselves, some suppressing laughter, others showing disapproval. Monica, unfazed, simply places a hand on the counter and smiles politely. "I understand your expectations, sir," she replied calmly. "If you wish, I can remake the mousse exactly to your taste." Richard bursts out laughing, thinking he has complete control of the situation. "No, no, keep that coffee. But you should know that you could use some discipline," he said, shaking his head with a condescending smile. As Richard continues to belittle Monica in front of everyone, tensions in the cafe rise. The customers exchange angry glances, but Monica remains completely calm. Inside, her anger is boiling, but she knows that patience and self-control are her greatest assets. She knows that one day, this arrogant man will realize he underestimated the wrong person. And that day, he will understand that true power is measured neither by wealth nor arrogance, but by dignity and intelligence. Richard Caldwell, convinced of his power and authority, observes Monica as if she were a simple object to be manipulated. He calls her back to the counter with an authoritarian gesture. "Hey, you! Go get that rare coffee from the back room. And make sure it's exactly as I ordered, or else." Monica looks at him calmly, showing no signs of intimidation. "Good, Mr. Caldwell," she replies quietly, and bows slightly before heading to the back room. Richard turns to his assistants, a satisfied smile, certain that he has humiliated the little waitress. "See? Some people think they can compete with me. It's not even funny." His assistants exchange embarrassed glances, but dare not say anything. Meanwhile, Monica heads to the back room with an almost defiant serenity. She knows the coffee she's supposed to make perfectly and decides to take this opportunity to demonstrate her skill. Every gesture is precise, the water temperature, the quality of the beans, the milk frother, everything is perfect. A few employees observe her discreetly, admiring her calm and mastery. When she returns, Richard, impatient, gets up to examine her closely. "So? It took a while," he sighs, as if expecting a catastrophe. Monica places the coffee on the counter with quiet elegance. "Here's your order, Mr. Caldwell." "As requested," she said. "I hope it meets your expectations." Richard tastes the coffee critically, but his features quickly harden. Each sip is exactly as he'd ordered. He tries to hide his surprise, but his arrogance wavers slightly. "Humph, not bad, for a waitress," he said with a forced laugh. Monica stares at him calmly, her gaze betraying a quiet confidence. "Sir, I handle matters far more important than you can imagine," she said in a neutral but firm tone. Richard bursts out laughing, thinking it's a joke, while the customers present begin to exchange puzzled glances and feel a certain tension. At that precise moment, the first crack in Richard Caldwell's ego appeared. He still believed he was in control, but Monica, with patience and precision, began to show him that beneath his modest exterior was someone who never allowed himself to be dominated. The battlefield is now set, arrogance versus dignity, wealth versus intelligence, and Monica knows her moment to reveal the truth is approaching. Monica steps toward Richard again, this time with a quiet confidence that contrasts with the agitation of the man before her. Her gestures are fluid, her voice soft but firm. "Mr. Caldwell, may I offer you something to go with your coffee?" she suggests. "We have fresh pastries that pair perfectly with this blend." Richard looks at her, puzzled. He expects her to look down, blush, or tremble, but none of that happens. He frowns and tries to regain control. "I just want my coffee. No need for advice from a waitress." Monica smiles politely and turns to the shelves to select a pastry. The surrounding customers watch, some already intrigued by the young woman's calm and poise. When she returns with a small, elegantly presented plate, she places it in front of Richard with perfect grace. "There you go, sir. I just wanted to make sure your experience here is pleasant," she said with impeccable politeness. Richard stares at her, unsettled by her serenity. "You're really insistent," he said, trying to regain his authoritative tone. "I prefer to make sure everything is done properly," Monica replies with a calm smile. After all, quality is important, even for the most demanding customers. Richard bursts out laughing, thinking his remarks have no effect on her. But inside, tension is rising. He feels something is slipping away from him, that he's no longer in control of the situation. The customers, fascinated by the contrast between Richard's arrogance and Monica's calm, begin to whisper admiring comments about the young woman. Monica, sensing the opportune moment, adds softly, "I understand your expectations, sir. But I assure you, there are things you cannot measure by money or power alone." Richard, surprised by this remark, remains silent. He does not yet understand that he is facing a person who is not impressed by his wealth or status. At that moment, Monica asks a question that catches the attention of the entire cafe. "Mr. Caldwell, did you know that your arrogance could cost you more than you imagine?" Richard laughs nervously, thinking she's speaking metaphorically, and shakes his head. But Monica, with supreme calm, knows the moment of her revelation is approaching. Her polite smile betrays nothing, but her eyes shine with quiet determination. The billionaire on the counter hasn't seen anything yet. Monica pauses for a moment behind the counter, observing Richard Caldwell and his assistants. The man's every move betrays his impatience and arrogance. He still believes he's in control. But Monica knows exactly how to turn the situation to her advantage. With a discreet gesture, she takes out her phone and activates a hidden camera, concealed behind her apron. It captures every word, every attitude, every condescending gesture Richard makes. The assistants, unaware of the recording, simply jot down orders and smile nervously at their boss. "Mr. Caldwell," Monica said, resuming her role as a polite waitress, "may I ask you a question?" Richard looks at her, intrigued but sure of himself. "What?" he asks, already impatient to get angry if necessary. "Have you ever thought about the person in front of you?" she said calmly, her eyes staring into his with quiet intensity. Richard bursts out laughing, thinking it's a joke. "Me? Think? Ha! I never waste time on this kind of thing." Monica approaches slowly, placing a hand on the counter, and her tone becomes firmer. "Let me clarify something, sir. You treated me with contempt, thinking I was just an ordinary waitress. But what you don't know is that I am the owner of this business." A heavy silence fell over the cafe. Richard's assistants stood frozen, unable to believe what they had just heard. The customers held their breath, some smiling in admiration. Richard, mouth agape, tries to laugh nervously. Are you joking?" Monica shakes her head gently, her expression calm but determined. "I'm not joking. I am Monica Johnson, founder and owner of Golden Empire. The channel you see thriving, which you probably considered insignificant, belongs to me." Richard turned pale, unable to find a word. His arrogance and sense of superiority crumbled in an instant. The customers' murmurs grew louder, and some clapped silently, admiring Monica's poise and the speed with which she had taken control of the situation. "But, you..." Richard murmurs, desperate to save face. "Mr. Caldwell," Monica said, her voice cold but polite, perhaps it's time we realized that true power isn't measured in money or status. It's measured in dignity, intelligence, and respect. Richard remains frozen, powerless in the face of the truth. Monica, meanwhile, resumes her calm waitress posture, as if nothing had happened, but in her eyes shines a triumphant spark. The moment of humiliation has come, and she has orchestrated it with perfect precision. The silence that follows Monica's revelation is almost palpable. The cafe patrons freeze for a moment, then begin to murmur, some in surprise, others in admiration. Smartphones discreetly emerge from their pockets to capture the scene. Monica, humble and elegant, has publicly humiliated Richard Caldwell, the arrogant man who thought he controlled everything. Richard, meanwhile, remains frozen behind his cup, unable to speak. Every word he tries to utter is lost in the tumult of his thoughts. His ego, previously intact, slowly crumbles under the weight of the truth. His assistants exchange embarrassed glances, realizing that they have been complicit in humiliating behavior toward the person they serve. But, stammers Richard, looking for an escape. I thought. Monica cuts him off with a subtle but firm gesture. Mr. Caldwell, she said calmly, it's clear you underestimated the situation. You thought your wealth and arrogance could impress or intimidate. But dignity can't be bought, and respect can't be commanded. The customers applauded quietly, some smiling broadly, impressed by Monica's poise and composure. A few took videos and began filming the scene, feeling they were witnessing a rare moment where arrogance confronted true power. Richard tries to straighten up, to assert his authority, but every gesture seems awkward and out of place. He realizes that his insults and condescending behavior have been captured and are now being documented by witnesses and hidden cameras. His face betrays deep humiliation, the color rising in his cheeks and his gaze avoiding Monica's eyes. He begins, searching for words. Monica doesn't let him continue. I advise you, she said in a firm but polite voice, to think about how you treat others. Perhaps one day you will understand that true power lies in self-control, dignity, and competence, not in money or social status. Richard, unable to answer, slowly gets up and leaves the cafe, his assistants following him. The customers catch their breath, some whispering among themselves, some congratulating Monica on her composure and wisdom. In the silence that followed, Monica resumed her duties as if nothing had happened. Her composure and professionalism remained intact, but inside, a sense of quiet triumph shone. She had shown, without anger or violence, that respect is earned through intelligence and dignity. And somewhere along the line, Richard Caldwell will soon understand that the lesson he received that day will remain etched in his memory forever. The hours following Monica and Richard Caldwell's confrontation quickly went viral. Videos captured by customers circulated on social media, and within hours, the Café The Golden Cup becomes the center of attention throughout the city. Local journalists contact Monica for interviews, curious to find out who this woman is who dared to challenge an arrogant billionaire with such calm and dignity. Meanwhile, Richard, in his luxurious office, tries to come to terms with the public humiliation. Every notification on his phone seems to remind him of the humiliation he has suffered. His assistants, still embarrassed, avoid making eye contact with him. Even his business contacts begin to whisper about the coffee scene, and Monica Johnson's name becomes a symbol of power and respect in the city. Monica, for her part, continues her service as if nothing had happened. She greets customers with her usual smile and prepares coffees with the same meticulousness, but inside, she knows her message has been heard. Her employees, impressed by her mastery and intelligence, now regard her with even deeper respect. Monica, whispers one of the baristas, I've never seen anyone handle it like you, and with such calm. Patience and dignity, Monica replies softly, are our best assets. Arrogance always betrays itself. The following days, the Golden Cup sees a massive influx of customers eager to see this incredible woman for themselves. Some come out of curiosity, others out of admiration, but all leave impressed by Monica's professionalism and kindness. Press articles describe her as the quiet but powerful owner, and the woman who humbled an arrogant billionaire with grace and intelligence. Richard, meanwhile, tries to downplay the incident, but every attempt backfires. His arrogance, now exposed to the public, affects his reputation and business relationships. People begin to see through his image of power and wealth, and the lesson Monica taught him begins to spread far beyond the cafe. In a city where money and status often rule, Monica has proven that a clear mind, unwavering dignity, and strategic intelligence can overcome wealth and arrogance. She has shown that true power lies not in the wallet, but in how one treats others, and that self-control is the greatest strength of all. Weeks after the incident, Richard Caldwell still hasn't forgotten his confrontation with Monica Johnson. Every meeting, every phone call, every social gathering reminds him of the public humiliation he suffered. His once impeccable reputation is now tarnished by the viral nature of the video and by articles celebrating Monica as a symbol of dignity and quiet power. Determined to regain control, Richard goes to another coffee shop in the chain Golden Empire, thinking he's asserting his superiority. He enters, his smile forced and his posture arrogant, convinced that Monica might not recognize him in this branch. But when he sees her calm and confident gaze, he immediately understands that she hasn't forgotten anything. "Mr. Caldwell," Monica said with a polite but firm smile, "welcome. Can I get you anything today?" Richard approaches, trying to regain his authoritative tone. I thought maybe we could have a private discussion." Monica stares at him, her brown eyes sparkling with intelligence. "Of course," she said softly. "But know that this discussion will be guided by politeness and respect. Not arrogance." Richard feels the tension rising. For the first time, he finds himself face to face with someone unintimidated by his status or wealth. Every word he speaks seems weak, every gesture controlled by Monica's vigilance. He realizes he is now the spectator, not the dominator. The customers around her watch, intrigued by this silent yet tense confrontation. Monica, remaining calm, continues to serve the other customers with the same precision, showing that she is not distracted by the arrogant man before her. "I suppose," Richard murmurs, searching for a way to regain his dignity, "that I still have things to learn." Monica nods, her smile almost imperceptible but full of wisdom. "Mr. Caldwell, respect and self-control are lessons money cannot buy. You came here expecting to impose your will, but I am showing you that true authority lies in patience, dignity, and intelligence." Richard remains silent, unable to respond. He finally understands that the lesson he received at Golden Cup was not just a warning, but a truth that he will have to accept in order to evolve. Monica, meanwhile, returns to her duties with the same serenity as before, proving that real power lies not in confrontation, but in self-control and commanding respect. Richard, humbled and changed, leaves the cafe, aware that his defeat is both public and personal. In the days following Richard Caldwell's confrontation with Monica, the whole town seemed to be talking about her. Social media was flooded with videos and articles chronicling the arrogant billionaire's public humiliation. Hashtags like #RespectMonica and #GoldenEmpire went viral, transforming Monica into a symbol of quiet power and dignity. The cafes in his chain, Golden Empire, are experiencing an unprecedented influx of curious or admiring customers. Local and even national journalists request interviews, intrigued by this woman who, through her intelligence and calm, was able to challenge a billionaire without violence or shouting. Monica, true to her character, politely accepts interviews, but continues to work behind the counter as if nothing had happened. Her humility reinforces her image, power without arrogance, respect without ostentation. Meanwhile, Richard Caldwell desperately tries to limit the damage. His business associates, some partners, and investors are beginning to doubt his judgment now that his arrogance has been exposed. His assistants, always at his side, look at him with concern mixed with embarrassment. The man they once served with such deference is no longer seen as a model of success, but as an example of vanity and arrogance. Monica, for her part, silently savors the results of her strategy. She knows that her patience and calm have been her greatest weapons. Every client, every journalist, and every video shared reinforces her authority and shows that intelligence and dignity trump arrogance and money. "You see," Monica whispers to a new employee who is watching her admiringly, "true power isn't measured by what you have, but by how you treat others." The guests present nod silently, some impressed, others inspired. Even those who were initially skeptical begin to understand Monica's quiet strength. Her reputation becomes a symbol for all who aspire to be respected not for their wealth, but for their character and integrity. Richard, for his part, retreats into his luxurious world, forced to reflect on his actions. Every time he thinks of Monica, he is reminded of the humiliation and the lesson he received. Wealth alone is not enough to command respect, and arrogance is never a weapon against someone who knows their worth. Thus, in the bustling city of Chicago, Monica Johnson becomes more than a cafe owner. She becomes a living example that dignity, patience, and intelligence are the true pillars of power. A few weeks after the incident, the entire city now knows Monica Johnson's name. Articles, videos, and interviews flood in, telling the story of a black woman who, through her intelligence and dignity, humiliated an arrogant billionaire without ever losing her composure. The cafe's golden empire are stormed, not only by loyal customers, but also by curious people who come to admire the woman who has become a symbol of respect and quiet power. Richard Caldwell, meanwhile, is now facing the consequences of his arrogance. His business partners are wavering, his social relationships are tarnished, and every encounter reminds him of the lesson Monica taught him. His public image is weakened, and he begins to understand that true authority is not measured by money or social status. Monica, true to herself, continues to work behind the counter, serving her customers with the same grace and professionalism. But inside, she savors the triumph of her strategy. Every smile she offers her customers, every precise gesture in preparing a coffee, every polite but firm word is a subtle reminder that respect and power come from self-control and dignity. One day, when Richard timidly returns to try to repair his image, Monica welcomes him calmly. "Mr. Caldwell," she said with a slight smile, "I hope you learned your lesson." Richard looks down, ashamed, and whispers, "Yes. I understand now. I apologize for my behavior." Monica nods, not angrily, but with quiet authority. "Respect is earned through actions and consideration for others, Mr. Caldwell. Remember that." Richard leaves the cafe, transformed by the experience, aware that his defeat was both public and personal. Monica continues to serve her customers, but her eyes shine with quiet satisfaction. She has not only protected his dignity, but also inspired an entire city to recognize that true power lies in self-control, intelligence, and respect. Thus concludes the story of Monica Johnson, a woman who, despite her humble appearance, became a true force of respect and power. In a city where arrogance and wealth seem to rule, she proved that dignity and clever strategy are the most powerful weapons. Months after the incident, Monica Johnson has become an iconic figure in Chicago. Her name resonates in newspapers, on social media, and in every coffee shop, golden empire where customers and employees remember the woman who challenged an arrogant billionaire with intelligence and dignity. Cafes are thriving more than ever. Every new customer knows they're not just coming for a coffee or a pastry, but to meet the living example of a woman who embodies respect, patience, and quiet power. Employees, inspired by her leadership, work with pride and excellence, knowing that their boss knows exactly what it means to defend her dignity and that of others. Richard Caldwell, on the other hand, has slowly changed. The public humiliation and Monica's lesson have forced him to reevaluate his behavior, his arrogance, and his treatment of others. His professional and social relationships have been damaged, but he is beginning to understand that respect cannot be bought. Whenever he thinks of Monica, he is reminded of the humility, self-control, and intelligence she demonstrated. For the city, Monica has become more than just a cafe owner. She is a symbol, a role model for all those who aspire to be respected not for their wealth, but for their character and integrity. Conferences, interviews, and public speaking engagements multiply, and Monica always chooses to remain close to her customers, true to herself. And in this mixture of success, admiration, and recognition, a universal truth is revealed: true power is never imposed by force or money. It is earned through dignity, patience, and the respect one inspires. Monica Johnson has proven, with elegance and intelligence, that even in a world obsessed with wealth and status, the heart and mind can triumph over the most brazen arrogance. Thus ends the story of Monica, the waitress who became the owner, the humble woman who became a symbol of respect and power. Her legacy will remain etched in the memories of all those who were lucky enough to cross her path.